Oscar for Baltimore's Best Podcast goes to City That Breeds. What the fuck? This is Cory, and this is the Anthem podcast.
Every time.
I don't know how they do it.
Just quality programming. Every single week, twice a week. So quality programming. Good afternoon, everybody. It's Rob. And as promised last week, we have a special guest this week.
Hey.
Jim always brings the fire right out the gates.
Stumbling right out of the gate.
People have commented that I'll just listen to the beginning of a podcast I'll do, and they're like, you just say hey, like you're so relaxed. I should bring the fire like on The Rock.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like, you smell what I'm cooking? It's because I burnt it.
Do you smell what I'm cooking? Honestly, do you smell it? I have no sense of smell.
Oh, don't make fun of EP right out of the gate like that. Come on.
Oh.
Well, that's because coming up in a few weeks, we're going to be doing a day-long podcast.
Yeah.
As a preparation for opening day with some of the other local podcasts. And big thank you to the guys over at Section 336 for getting that together.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun. Basically, the Sunday before opening day, so it's the 3rd.
The 3rd, yes.
All the local podcasts and bloggers who do anything revolving Baltimore sports will be getting together and doing like a podcast-a-thon, basically. We're giving money to, God damn it, I can't remember the name of the charity right now, but I know it's for homeless, Baltimore's homeless population.
Which I will be one soon. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to be a great opportunity to get ready for the season, to hear a whole lot of great takes on what's going on with the O's.
Right.
We'll be bringing the funny, hopefully.
So make sure
either we'll bring the funny, or in an effort to try and diversify ourselves away from the rest of the podcast, we'll just go purely statistical. Just an hour and a half of like, listen, I'm having alarming thoughts about the UZR rating of Adam Jones over its seasons. I mean, it's really declining at a rapid pace. Look at this 36-point chart that I've created just for this.
But so we'll have more details as we get closer to that. Make sure you are following at the Anthem on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, and make sure you go to otheanthem.com for more information. Follow along with us. They'll be live streaming all day. And actually, we are looking for sponsors for that. Obviously, as Cory said, we are raising money during that podcast. So if we're looking for sponsors for our period and for the entire day, so if you're interested, make sure you check out the links that we'll have available this week.
Yep.
But whole point being, I was looking into
and
it.
And it's birdlandradio.com if you're interested in looking into that sort of thing. So
we should do that.
Speaking of party suites, I imagine we're going to have a pretty sweet party suite when we go to the Oscars one of these days.
Okay.
The O The Anthem.
The O The Anthem suite?
Yeah, the O The Anthem white party after the Oscars.
Listen,
Jim, you can come. We need somebody to work the door.
Wait, the white party at the Oscars. This just I don't want to.
I was about to make that statement.
I was setting somebody up. I was waiting.
Aren't the Oscars white enough?
I was
really?
lobbing the ball to somebody who wanted to. Yeah.
I'm going to be having a black party. Thank you.
A black party. No black people invited. Only nominees. I'm sorry, Denzel. It's nominees only.
The thoughts of Cory Baker are his and his alone. Please send all comments to Cory at otheanthem.com. But no, so the Oscars are coming up, and as promised, we are doing a little review. Obviously, you two guys have seen far more of these movies than I have. I've seen The Revenant, which I saw in the theaters.
Right.
Then last night I watched The Martian, Bridge of Spies, and Mad Max. Unimpressed, generally speaking.
Yeah.
So,
I still haven't seen The Martian.
And of all of the ones, you haven't seen The Martian.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the more popular ones.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, when it came out originally, I didn't really think I was going to like it. So...
Because of Matt Damon? I mean, what is it about it that you didn't think you would like? Oh, yeah. You're really going to hate that, by the way.
This is the big year of one controversy that's gone away, mostly because there's bigger controversies. But one of the controversies that's come up a lot this year is category fraud, particularly with The Martian being put comedy and musical, and the same thing with Alicia Vikander and Rooney Mara having more of lead performances, and they're nominated for supporting.
Yeah.
And that this year, the term, I had never heard the term category fraud until this Oscar year. It's become it was a bigger talking point, and then the Oscars So White basically took that away.
Well, one of the things I'd like the internet to figure out, and now this is where me and Jim tussle. Of the Best Picture nominees. Now, granted, I haven't seen Room yet, and I haven't seen The Martian, but I mean, like,
such good things about The Room.
Just generally speaking, well, let's be clear. There's a difference between Room and The Room.
Room.
Because
yeah, they clearly took the out of there for a reason.
Because if it was The Room, I'd give it an Oscar right now.
Right.
For Best Comedy.
Yes.
But the
wait, you're giving an Oscar for Best Comedy? Is there a new category I wasn't aware of?
Yeah, you just make up a category there.
Just to give it to it.
So going to Best Picture, obviously I didn't see a lot of them, but Jim, I'm guessing you've seen most of them.
I've seen all of them.
Good. So what's
seen all of them, and I've reviewed all of them.
Good. Well, so what's your pick for Best Picture in 2016?
Like winning or what I think's the best one?
Well, how about both, I guess?
Winning is complicated because this is the one real up in the air year where, like, basically every year there's all these other award shows that kind of indicate what's going to win. So you have the PGA, you have SAG, you have the BAFTAs and Golden Globes, and basically PGA went to The Big Short, SAG went for Spotlight, the BAFTAs and Golden Globes went for The Revenant. It feels more like The Revenant's going to win, but honestly, it could go to all three of them for equal reasons. And also, The Revenant isn't nominated for screenplay, but then screenplay is even weirder because Big Short's definitely going to win adapted, Spotlight's definitely going to win original. So then you're like, but what? I don't even know what what could win at this point. It's so confusing, but it's definitely going to be between those three. Like, I would say probably The Revenant at this point. That's the way it's looking. Personally, I know you guys aren't as into it, but I think, Mad Max was my pick for the best movie of last year, so obviously I'm going to pick Mad Max. Partially because I think in 20, 30 years, when you look at this list, that's the film that's probably going to hold up the best. And it's also the only film I can think of that list that when I think of people who are big cinephiles who only watch silent film and classic film, the only film they're thinking about from this year was Fury Road. It's probably the only one that's visually compelling and is well made, and it's also it's already turned the tide to more practical effects. Star Wars: The Force Awakens did that because of Mad Max. There's been a lot of turn less towards the visual because almost everything in Fury Road is practical.
Right. Yeah.
The only thing that's visual effects is taking out planes that were flying overhead and color correcting. That's about it. It was pretty much in camera. Well, so I think that's a larger argument is the Oscars usually do not pick the film that's going to hold up well, and I think Mad Max is that movie, but I don't want it to win also because it's too radical and cool for them, and they're super lame.
But I've heard a lot of people talking about, like sort of the below the line vote going to Mad Max, and it what I worry about is that Mad Max and The Revenant might be sort of like what is it, like when a compelling third party candidate's in the race?
Spoiler.
Like sort of like a nadir to the what was his face? Gore.
Yeah.
Like,
wait, so are you saying like Donald Trump is The Big Short and Bernie Sanders is Spotlight?
I wasn't saying that exactly, but essentially yes. I think that Spotlight and The Big Short, despite being my two favorite movies of the ones that I've seen so far, I think are sort of ones that can stand alone on their own as like sort of individual films, whereas The Revenant and Mad Max Fury Road are kind of similar in a way that they might attract a certain type of vote that might cancel each other out.
I don't know if I agree with that just because I think most of the people who like Mad Max think The Revenant's stupid. So I think that's the thing because The Revenant is more about how hard it was to make. And Mad Max, there's certainly that element as well. But problem with The Revenant is it's ripping off Terrence Malick, it's ripping off Tarkovsky, it's ripping off a lot of foreign filmmakers. And I think the people who are voting for Mad Max is not... Mad Max might actually win more technical awards and end up winning more awards overall, because it's going to win like production design.
Yeah.
Like a bunch... It might end up winning the most, which does not mean anything. Terminator 2, I think, won the most the year it was up, but it didn't get nominated for Best Picture. Right. That will happen. But the people who like Mad Max, the problem with Revenant is that it's more about, look how we suffered for it. Leo ate some bison and had to eat meat for one moment in his life or something. It's more about that. And I think Revenant has not held up to the film theory people, because they're like, the shots don't represent very much of anything. There isn't a reason he did it in daylight. The Revenant might be one of my lesser ones if I were to rank them all, just because I don't really like that. I understand what he was doing, but it didn't mean as much, and I expect more from Emmanuel Lubezki, who shot it, who works with Terrence Malick. So it's like, dude, you ripped off your other boss or something.
Well, and I haven't.
But I don't want to get into that.
I haven't seen enough of them to know anything, and I haven't paid attention enough to know anything about who may win. But I will tell you that I am the outlier, because of the 4 that I've seen, The Martian was my favorite of the 4. And I thought that it was visually stunning, even though clearly it was all CGI. It was not actual effects, and nothing that was done. I enjoyed the story, which I thought was lacking in a couple of other ones. But
I think if I have to give it to one, like if you're asking for my personal vote on who wins Best Picture, I think today I'd give it to The Big Short, as I just thought it had so many different parts to it that, like,
Catholic guilt's not on your
no,
shoulders?
but Catholic guilt, like, every time I watch Spotlight, I just feel so guilty. I want to apologize to people. And I didn't do anything. Other people did it. The church did it.
Of the ones I've seen, of the material I've seen, of the things I've heard, is this Leo's year in the actor in a leading role?
No, he is going to win this so hard. It's just like, it's ridiculous. It's like, he's going to win this so hard, Blake Lively's going to pass out. But the point is, no. No, this is his year, and with Best Actor especially, you have these narratives that go on through all the award season, and it's like the McConaughey thing. It's like all year it builds and builds, and it's like by the time they win, it's like a coronation practically. It's like the Academy's like, we have to give it to you. And he's been smart because he's avoided Oscar so white. He, like, every time he's at a thing, he's like, the environment. I met with the Pope about the environment. The Revenant, we had to move locations because of the environment. It's like, okay, Leo, we get you don't want to talk about black people. It's cool. But, like, he's done a good job at diverting. And it's also like he's had so many nominations. He should have won for Wolf of Wall Street.
Yes.
Over McConaughey, frankly. I think McConaughey did a good job, but I wish... when I watched The Revenant, I was like, man, I kind of wish Leo won for Wolf of Wall Street. Why did we let this happen?
I agree 100%. I like McConaughey, but I think that his role in Wolf of Wall Street, because now it's almost like we're going to give it to him for The Revenant, but that was a better movie. Or his role in... Not that it was a better movie, but his role in Wolf of Wall Street was better, I think, than what he played in The Revenant.
That's the thing, the difference between Best Actor and the actress races, because the actress, they like young women.
Right.
And in actor, they like 40s is like the sweet spot. And very few young actors win. Like, I only think Adrian Brody and Richard Dreyfuss have won in their 20s. Like, most of the time it's you have a career, you have an established brand. And Leo...
Well, Eddie Redmayne won last year.
Yeah, Eddie Redmayne. Also,
well, that's okay. That's true. That's very rare. I think he's in his 30s though, but that's a rarity because he proved himself to such a degree. But
he's
with Leo,
aged like a fine wine. I tell you what, if he's in his 30s, good God.
But Leo, it's like, he has so much going for him, and his brand as a star is movies with major directors are not just. He's never really sold out. He's I mean, literally, his rise to fame was James Cameron. Then he did a Danny Boyle movie. Then he did Spielberg and Scorsese.
Yeah.
No one's been able to match that. It's like insane, his rise in terms of who he worked with. And I think they just need to give it to him so they don't look like total assholes.
Well,
it's like the same thing with when they let Scorsese win. It's like it's become a joke, and the way it was with Scorsese is the same way it is with him now, and they just need to they need to make themselves not look like such idiots, which they haven't done a good job this year, but this will help a little.
Speaking of the coronation, though, we've been there before with Leo, where it's been seeming like it's building up to the coronation, and then he doesn't win.
Yeah, but the other years, it's like, I mean, they've screwed up with him. They should have nominated him for Titanic. That was a mistake on an epic level. But then the McConaughey year, nobody thought Leo was going to win, and it's like the Aviator year, I think it was Jamie Foxx, was that his year, I think?
Yeah.
It's just he's always had someone beating him, and this year, like, I can't think of anyone else. Like, Eddie Redmayne's not going to win because that's too much of a hot button issue. Mm-hmm. That he, in the year of trans rights and Tangerine and all these things, for stupid Eddie Redmayne to put on a dress and get an Oscar nomination is ridiculously offensive enough. So giving it to him is something they don't need at this point.
Not only that, but there is a feeling by among a lot of people who put some sort of austerity in back-to-back winner.
Right, yeah.
So if he were to win back-to-back, it would need to be such a knockout performance on the second half that it would almost be... How could you vote for anybody but kind of
the
thing.
Last time that happened was Tom Hanks in Philadelphia and Forrest Gump. Not to bring up Tom Hanks, sorry. And then I think Spencer Tracy did it. So those are two Hollywood legends. And Eddie Redmayne just like... no one's seeing a movie for Eddie Redmayne. I mean, it's just like... It's just not there,
Well, and I mean, like, I think, it just seems, looking at the Best Actor category, that it's just set up for Leo to... I mean, there's no other performance that I haven't seen, obviously, The Martian or Trumbo yet. But I don't really think that there's any like,
Cranston.
chance that either one of these two could be so...
Cranston. I think Cranston is the possible spoiler.
The problem with Trumbo's not that good. I mean, it's like an HBO movie. It's like, that's the biggest problem with Trumbo, and it's proven to be historically inaccurate, and they just did it to give, like, Cranston got a nomination, it's in his legacy, he's got the nomination, but he's not campaigning as hard because it's the only nomination Trumbo even got, which is gonna hurt it. And The Revenant's been campaigning so hard, it's just like, there's no way.
Yeah.
I just don't think... It would be impractical to even think anyone else would even have a chance.
And it's ridiculous. I do think that Leo is probably the golden boy, and this is going to be his thing. But the one thing we talked about before is the Oscars can't help themselves, and it's a movie about Hollywood, and about how we fooled everyone else.
That's a theory people have, but very few movies about Hollywood win Oscars. Unless you're like Sunset Boulevard or something, and that was a pretty long time ago. So I think like most movies about Hollywood have a hard time because they like movies about Hollywood, but they're like, we don't want people in Kansas thinking we're that full of ourselves. So.
Yeah.
Best Actress. I have not seen many of these movies,
Nope.
but I did see Brooklyn. And, I mean, I'm sort of hearing the same sort of thing about Brie Larson sort of being the runaway on this, but I thought Saoirse Ronan was just incredible in Brooklyn.
No, I'm with you on Saoirse. I loved her in Brooklyn. She was so good. And the thing about Brooklyn that I love is Brooklyn represents a kind of movie they made in the 30s and 40s, which this sounds like a sexist term, but was what they were called, which is called a woman's picture. And what they were, like Bette Davis, Joan Crawford, Barbara Stanwyck would star in them, and it would show a woman going through adversity and growing up and becoming a better person usually. And a lot of them were really good, but Hollywood stopped making them by and large. And Brooklyn represents one of those. But like Mildred Pierce, if you've ever seen that, the movie, not the TV miniseries.
Right.
But she pulled off a classic Hollywood woman's picture performance, and I was like so in awe. Like they actually had lanterns behind her, like behind the camera. I'm pointing on the video. People think I'm crazy, But to make like her eyes reflect like a classic Hollywood way. I was like, but she pulls it off so well. I was like, I just thought she was just so good in that movie. Like when you watch her just emote subtly, you feel what she's feeling. I mean, it's just like she did such a good job. I don't love the movie itself, but I think without her performance, I would have hated that movie.
Yeah, I mean,
and she made that movie so perfect. But I think Brie Larson, it's like hers to lose.
I would make the argument that Brooklyn is probably in like a Trumbo place, right, where like if it weren't for Saoirse Ronan, then that movie has no purpose in being like I think she's good enough that she put it into the Best Picture category almost by herself.
No, I mean, agree.
It had a lot of. I mean, like I love Nick Hornsby.
I mean, sadly, Brooklyn is the Martin O'Malley of the Oscar race, but
just has no chance from the get.
Yeah.
But
I was holding that joke from when you did the Bernie Sanders thing. I was like, I got to get an O'Malley dig.
But what I'm hearing though is that Brie Larson in Room, just her performance was insane in that movie.
She was really good. I think it's like probably if there's anyone else who could win, it's like Cate Blanchett and Carol or Saoirse Ronan in Brooklyn, but it's most likely going to be Brie Larson because she's just been eating up all the attention, right, and she's been campaigning. And she also has a story. I've noticed each person who's going to win the acting things has a story to tell the press, so they don't have to talk about black people. And like hers is about her mom and how they grew up in a single. Her mom was a single mom, and they were so poor, and all this stuff. And I'm like, God, Brie Larson, like, cut it out. But I mean, it's working for her. She remembers everyone's name when they go to these luncheon things, which are important, and she remembers everyone. And Saoirse Ronan is like on Broadway and doing other stuff, but I don't think she's as into the campaigning. Mm-hmm. But I think the Oscars love that like crying, like tortured performance type of thing. So.
Well, and you know, it's sort of interesting though from the Best Actress category. I mean, like even though it seems like Brie Larson is the runaway favorite, and you know, Jim and I both sort of have a soft spot for Saoirse here. You know, it's kind of an interesting field with, you know, Jennifer Lawrence is sort of like a perennial, and right, Cate Blanchett is kind of a perennial, and then Charlotte Rampling just sort of like, you know, sort of having this, you know, runaway performance here. You know, It almost seems like she's getting the, like, you know, this is the last chance to give her a real chance at winning something, you know?
Well, I would have thought if she hadn't made that stupid comment early on in the award season, that kind of took her out of any sort of chance she even had, which wasn't a lot. But when she said that thing about, like, I think it's racist against white people, I was like, oh, well, any chance you even had is gone. Yeah. So
I'm not saying that there's not a lot of chances. I mean, like, it seems at least on spec that the actress category is closer than the actor category is. Mm-hmm. In terms of other people having a shot at winning,
that's true. Yeah.
But it does seem like it's almost like a done deal that Brie Larson's going to win.
Another race that's clearly locked up: Sylvester Stallone in Best Supporting Actor for Creed.
I
clearly
agree.
I can't. I think this one is going to be much closer than. Like this, I can make a compelling argument for a lot of people in this category.
You don't think he's nominated just to give him the award?
I think once he got nominated, it was pretty clear. But he's done a campaigning thing that no one's done. Is that he brought up that he was considering not coming to the Oscars because he called Ryan Coogler, his director, and Michael B. Jordan and said, "Look, guys, like." I want to talk to you about this. Like, I want to know, should I do this? And he's been very open about it and said, like, I wouldn't be here without those two. Like, I didn't even develop the movie. They did and came to me. So the fact that he was already going to win because Oscars winning is more about glamour. Like, they really like a comeback story. Stallone hasn't been nominated since the first Rocky in 1977. He didn't win an Oscar for Rocky writing or anything. Although Rocky did win Best Picture that year. But I think, you know, if Tom Hardy wins, which he hasn't been campaigning at all, if he wins and you're watching the broadcast, just assume Revenant's going to win everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Tom Hardy was probably the best performance in The Revenant. I really liked that movie, and Tom Hardy's a great actor.
I mean, I thought Tom, honest to God, in The Revenant just alone, I thought Hardy did a better acting job than Leo did.
Agreed.
Yeah. You know, and I'm a little bit just looking at the supportings here. I mean, I thought Ruffalo did a fine job in Spotlight. I don't think he did better than Tom Hardy. If we're giving it to somebody from The Big Short, I almost think I would want to have Steve Carell nominated more than Christian Bale.
Yeah.
Even though I thought Christian Bale was very good in the movie, I thought Steve Carell really stole it away from him.
Well, Steve Carell kind of has the best arc of that whole movie.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the only one you really feels bad for what he's doing. Like, he really has that big emotional scene, you know. He's important to that movie. I was surprised he didn't get nominated. He didn't, right?
No.
No.
Just Christian Bale. And then again, Ruffalo, I think, is another perennial where he's starting to get noticed in a lot of movies that he's in.
Yeah, but I don't
Not
think
for nominations, but he's a rising star later in life.
He's going to be, in terms of his track record with the Academy, he's always a bridesmaid because he's just keeps getting supporting noms. But it's like this was clearly his most showiest in terms of trying to get one, but it's still like they're still like, but it's not your year, kid. Right. So he's gonna keep trying. He's gonna go from Avengers movie to indie and back and forth.
He might have like one of those tracks of like he'll be nominated 6 times before he wins kind of thing, and then eventually when they wins on the 6th time, it'll be
he'll be
because
Stallone.
He's a lifetime achievement basically.
He'll be a Stallone where they nominate him. I mean, Stallone's gonna win this year. Because he's never won. And then they'll nominate Ruffalo in 15 years and he'll win because he's never won.
He might win. Stallone might win, but I can't imagine not giving it to Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy, the reason he's not going to win is because he's not campaigning. He's working.
Right.
And that's going to hurt you. And Stallone, like, what's Stallone got to do? You know, Stallone is... I know people in the industry don't like him as much, so that gives other people the advantage. But that Oscars luncheon that gets televised and it's on E! News and Access Hollywood the next day, clips of it. All the clips were of Stallone talking about how he almost walked off, and the fact that he's the only white actor talking about that right when voting started. I think he's been very smart about it, but to my understanding he actually did call them. Like he was very serious about, he was like wanted to consider it. And the fact that everyone else I talked about, I mentioned how they have a speech and a thing prepared, and his thing prepared was, no, I will talk about it, he's the one who's gonna reap the rewards for white people, you know?
Best supporting actress,
I think it's gonna be Alicia Vikander.
Really?
Yeah. She's pretty much won everything. She's right in that young ingenue spot. It's kind of her year, like with Ex Machina and this, and well, let's not think about Man from U.N.C.L.E., but the first two.
Right.
And I think she's a very talented actress, and I'm sure they want her. I could see like Rooney Mara or someone else from it, but I kind of think she's the odds-on favorite because they just like her so much, even if that movie nobody really liked. So
yeah, I mean, I would probably give it to Rooney Mara on Spec. I'm painfully, I've only seen 3 of these, so.
Well, the thing with Rooney Mara, I mean, Kate Winslet probably has the only chance of really taking it from her, which would be cool for Kate Winslet and Leo to win the same year. I kind of like
that'd be funny.
I think that would be kind of cool. Kate Winslet might take it from her, but Rooney Mara is in Carol, and that's a weirder art house movie, and the Academy voters just haven't really gotten into it. You know, I love Carol. I think Carol's a great movie, but I don't think the Oscar voter. It's not an Oscar voter movie. You know,
yeah,
that's Carol's not going to win shit, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't think Jennifer Jason Leigh really has much of a chance either. Just because I don't think.
No, that movie's too mean for Oscar people.
Finally, the director, best director. You got a take on that one?
I think it's. I kind of don't like this, but I think it's going to be Inarritu, and if he wins, he'll have just as many Oscars as Spielberg. So let that shit sink in. I don't like
wait.
George.
Does Spielberg only have 2?
Yeah, for Schindler's List and Saving Private Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Very popular, but not.
Yeah, I can't.
I mean, they weren't going to give it to him for the movies that everyone likes him for, like Raiders of the Lost Ark or Jaws. Or Jaws. I don't think they nominated him for. They've kind of not treated him as well as they probably should have, to be honest, throughout his career pre Schindler's List. But he does have 2, which it's hard to get 2 as a director.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
doesn't happen to a lot of people. But he will then be tied with Spielberg. But George Miller, and this isn't because of my personal feelings, there is kind of a narrative that George Miller could win just because so much of what made Mad Max special was the direction. And I think people really want to honor George Miller. I don't think if Adam McKay or Tom McCarthy win, was it Tom McCarthy?
Yeah.
I think so. If they win, then that's another thing that while you're watching, if anyone but those two, George Miller or Inarritu, win, then Spotlight or Big Short is going to win picture, But
right.
I don't think that's because the DGA went to Inarritu. So much stuff has gone to Inarritu, and so much of the narrative is how much he suffered and how long it took, and it was all this suffering stuff that Oscars love. And but I think George Miller has a shot, but I don't think that means Mad Max is going to win Best Picture. I just think that's the way Best Director could go.
Well, I mean, I would conceivably give it to Tom McCarthy for Spotlight, because I think that movie, just sort of like the sum of all its parts put together, was a real sort of old school directing job of just keeping everything. That movie flowed really well, even though it was pretty long, and it kept something that's not super riveting.
Well, the thing
behind the scenes of writing a long lead for a newspaper isn't the most exciting thing out there, but he kept every single station of that movie very exciting.
I mean, the thing with him in his direction in the Oscars in this past decade has become more about kind of the showy nominee.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing with acting also. And it's like Karan, how he won for Gravity. Who won last year? Oh, Inarritu.
Yeah.
For Birdman, which was more showy. It's usually about the more showiness of the director, and it's just not showy enough. It could have won in the 80s or the 90s or something. But, I mean, that's kind of my thing personally with Spotlight, is just that if you look at something like All the President's Men, it's procedural, much like Spotlight, but the cinematography is a lot better. He does a lot more with it, and he was just doing kind of more of he's good. I don't think Spotlight's bad by any means, but I think that's just kind of the thing with the direction, is it's more about being a journeyman director, and that's fine for that movie. I think it worked out really well, but he just isn't doing the stuff that someone like even Fincher did with Zodiac, or the people to really brighten it up. And I don't know how you would have had to change the script to make it more like one of those, but that's not going to help Tom McCarthy. It's also like when you see Spotlight, you're thinking of the story, and Tom McCarthy wrote it, so he's going to walk away with an Oscar probably.
Right, for the screenplay.
Yeah. He also wrote Up, which I didn't know. He helped write Up. And he was in the 5th season of The Wire. He's like the main character of the journalist, which is interesting because of Spotlight,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but he I don't think he's a bad director, but it's not he's probably like 4th in terms of most likely because of everyone else on there. Like Adam McKay was a comedy director, comes out of nowhere, makes this like Oscar movie that's more impressive of a narrative, and then you have George Miller in Inarritu. I mean, the guy who did The Room is kind of like, he might as well just stay home. He's just there for Oscar. But Spotlight, I don't, when I say that about Spotlight, that doesn't mean I dislike it. It's just, in terms of its genre, I think that's why I've heard a lot of people say, and people have defended it. But in terms of the Best Director race, that's what's hurting him, is you have all these people doing these impressive feats. And also, I don't think the thing with McKay, Miller, and Inarritu when I say Adam McKay, Anchorman, Step Brothers, other guys. When I say George Miller, the Mad Max movies and Babe and like his whole filmography, and same with Inarritu. And McCarthy, you're just like, oh, he did Win-Win from a couple of years ago.
Yeah, like
it's just like you don't have that filmography to really look at. He also did what's considered one of the worst movies of the year, the same year, The Cobbler with Adam Sandler.
Oh.
So, so that might be another strike against. It's weird to have somebody share a worst of and best of in comparison is very. It must have been a weird end of December for him.
Yeah.
Looking back on the year, like, well, that was a mixed bag. I can't. Yeah.
YouTube's so needlessly confusing.
Oh, God.
You know what's not needlessly confusing?
What's that?
OhTheAnthem.com. Cory at OhTheAnthem. Thank you, Daddy. OhTheAnthem.com. Cory at OhTheAnthem.com. OhTheAnthem on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, YouTube, and the listener line, 443-219-7595.
What's that number again?
443-219-7595.
And you can find me on all your social networks at Robert N. Cheek. Make sure you check out robertncheek.com, the revamped foundingthefuture.us, and all the other links are available there at robertncheek.com, including links to my books, all available on Amazon now.
Buy Rob's books.
And Jim, where can they find you online?
Find me on Twitter at JIMMForce, and then I'm on Tumblr, YouTube, Facebook. If you just go to my YouTube, all the links are right there of everything I do online.
And all those links will be available in the show notes if people want to go there. So
Yes, indeed.
yeah.
All right. Well, I think we've done good here today.
Well, we've done something. I don't know if it's good. But as always, you are listening to the Oh the Anthem podcast, part of the Oh the Anthem digital network. For Cory and Jim, all the way from beautiful New York City, this is Rob.
Hey.
Have a great week, everybody.